So what exactly is outline type? I'll give you a moment to come up with your answer. No, it doesn't mean you give your type an outline. Remember, that's something I don't want you to do. It means that you convert your type from being a font to being a bunch of vector objects. Why would you do that? Well, because while you can modify type in all kinds of different ways, you can resize it, you can even stretch it and pull it, you can change the color of it, there are certain things that you can't do well when it is type, that you have more control when they are vector shapes. You get access to those control points. So say for instance I would like to take these blocks of type and distort them a little bit. So for instance I'd like this L to be stretched tall to emphasize the word, and I'd like this T to become a little bit shorter to emphasize that word. So those are the types of things that I can't do well by just stretching and distorting the type. I want to control the form completely, and that's something I can't do with a font. The nice thing is that creating outlines from your type is quite easy, but you don't want to do it unless you really have a need to modify in this way, because when you change this, as you'll see, it is no longer type, so that means you cannot modify it as type. So I'm going to mark each one of these shapes. I'm shift clicking, and then just for yucks, I'm going to go up here and say group, so it's one big thing. Okay, so now with that marked, I just go to the type menu and I pull down to create outlines. So as I said, very easy.
Very.
Now you'll notice before I converted this was type, and it had the baseline at the bottom of each of these blocks of type. So that's how you know it is type or a typeface or a font. But now you'll notice, especially if I get my white arrow tool, that you don't see that baseline. But what you do see are a whole bunch of vector points. So at this point, this is no longer a font, no longer type. These are just a bunch of shapes. So again, you can't edit these as type anymore, but what you can do is modify the shapes in really cool ways. Now do keep in mind that this is a pretty simple typeface. Sans serif, all straight lines, right angles, and so this is going to modify very easy. But look at the S here, or if you have a serif typeface, or if you have a highly decorative typeface, then they're going to have a whole bunch of control points, and that makes it a bit more challenging. But what I want to do is I don't want to mark all these things, because if I grab it now, I just move the whole thing. I want to access just specific control points. So I'm going to click away, make sure I have my white arrow tool, and then if you remember, if you just click on the path, it will show you where all the control points are, and then you can mark the ones you want to grab. So I'm going to click on this one here, hold the shift key, click on this one here, and so now these 2 points are marked, but the others are not. They are still hollow, in other words, white. Now I can click and hold and drag from one of the points. I'm going to hold the shift key to make sure it stays in a straight line, and that easily I am able to extend or modify that shape. Now for the T, there's a few more points I have to get access to. I need to grab all of these points. So I could do the shift click again, but my favorite technique is to use a marquee that I drag with the arrow tool. That will mark everything in the marquee. And now I can click on one of those marked points. Again, hold the shift key to drag it in a straight line and just pull it down just a bit to kind of make that point. So that's really all there is to it. So all the stuff you already know about vector paths and points and Bezier curves and all that stuff can be applied to this, because that's all these letter forms are now, are just vector shapes.